David is the king of Israel. He was a king of Israel. David was a man after God's own heart. He was a man after God's own heart. What does it even mean? What does it even mean? It means he loved God and he obeyed God because he was and he was a man full of faith too.
Yes, he was.
Okay.
Quoted by God. Yeah.
Quoted by God.
God said,
yeah,
this
so
man is.
He didn't call Daniel a man after God's own heart.
Wait, hold on. No. Hold on.
I'm just saying that title wasn't given to Daniel.
I didn't even mention Daniel yet.
There's a lot of David hate.
There is a lot of David hate.
And you know, if we put your life in the Bible,
okay,
the way that David was, I bet there'd be a lot of Daniel hate too.
Oh.
So, if you go into the Bible, okay,
yeah,
and you see the story of David, do you know David's first wife?
No.
Okay, her name was, I think, Milcah. Okay. She was Saul's daughter. So.
Oh, yes, I do. Yes,
okay.
I do. Yes, I do.
Thank goodness, right?
Yes,
Thank goodness the guy knows what he's talking about here. So time passes, whatever. David has to go. He has to run from Saul, whatever. So he didn't really see his wife for a while. So later, when he wants to get reinstated as king, right? He wants his wife Milcah back, right?
Ooh.
So Milcah was already given to someone else. Like she already has a husband, right? So the guy.
Hold on.
Yeah. So she has another husband. So the guy was like, I bet. I got you.
Wait.
What?
She has two husbands?
No. Like David wasn't with her anymore.
Why?
Like,
they divorced?
No, because he had to run away from Saul because he was trying to kill him. So that whole time of him hiding away, going to different nations for years, he didn't see her no more. So she got a new husband. Okay. Situation, right? She has a new husband, and David's like, "Yo, I want her back. Get her from me because I want to be king." He's like, "All right, bet. I'll do it." So he goes to Milcah, and again, she's with a new man now, and then she has to take her from the guy to David. But you know what happens? It says in the Bible that this guy, he was crying about it, right? And he said he was following her. Like he was this guy was following her, and then the guy was like, "Yo, stop following us," and then he walked away crying.
Wait, hold on,
bro. Like it was like that real. Like, okay, yo, David wants you back. Like you have to come with me. I'm part of like the palace. Like come with me. So the guy's like, what the heck? And so she has to leave. She has to leave. She leaves with the guy, and her, I guess, her new husband. I guess no longer husband no more. He's like following them. He's like, come back. I don't know. He's like walking away, and the guy's like, dude, stop, go home. And then he walks back like crying.
Yo,
I was like, this was such a, I don't know. Like they put that in there. I'm just like, what do I learn from this? Like I don't know what can I get out of this situation? Because it's like it just says the guy was following him, and then the guy said, go home, and then the guy walked away. He's probably like, come back, it's not fair. And he's like, stop, bro, go home. He's like, okay, fine. And then he walks back, and that's it. And then Milcah's given to David. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty tough on David's part though. Because
what do you mean pretty tough?
I mean,
like dope. He's cool for that.
For what? Explain why he's not dope for that.
He just
Explain it to me.
Listen, explain why he's not dope for that. What you talking about, man? Split up a freaking.
That was his wife originally. Yes or no?
I mean, I guess,
exactly.
But
exactly. Man said, all right, bet.
Dang,
so I get married, I get a wife.
So
right?
was it his fault?
No. Hold up.
No, it wasn't.
Hold up.
Was it his fault?
That's my shorty. That's the king's daughter. I married the king's daughter. Boom. She's my wife. I love her. Boom. All of a sudden, her papa wants to kill me, right? Not her. Oh yeah, her papa wants to kill me. So I got to dip. And then she finds a new man. So I'm gonna come back, and I'm gonna say, "Yo,
dude,
that's my wife. Back off." And then he's gonna, "Yo, go home, bro. Go home. That's my wife. I'm sorry."
So was it this guy's fault for getting with her?
No, I mean he didn't. I guess he didn't know, or he just.
That's the king's daughter.
No, but I meant like he didn't know that David was already married to her. So
I guess.
So like it's dope on David's part.
Dude, that's crazy. No, that's
how he came back.
Perspective, bro.
He came back and claimed his wife, bro.
But man already had other wives in the midst of all this too.
Yeah, but he wanted his wife, the first one. So he said, "I want her back. She's my wife." So he came and he said, "Brother, Go home.
He didn't say that.
Your time is up.
That's crazy, bro. That's crazy.
How's that crazy?
Nah, G. Nah, G.
Lewis just doesn't understand.
Understand what, bro? Splitting up loving relationships.
That was David's wife.
Causing a man to like cry and follow, bro. You know how down bad. You know how like, broken as a man you have to be to follow the woman and follow the woman and like cry the whole time. Like, come back. I didn't even do nothing. Like, and then this the guy has to like macho man like, yo, stop following us, bro. Go home. And then you have to the walk of shame, walk back home. Just because your wife got stolen from you, you can't do nothing about it. That's crazy.
Okay,
and that's dope
you have
for
a point. No.
So what you're saying is that you think it's dope to split up people.
That's crazy.
No,
that's crazy.
What are you talking about? That's literally what you're saying.
Is it split up though, or is it just that David came and claimed his wife?
You can't claim something you lost. Oh no.
Fix yourself. Fix yourself.
No, because.
Listen, he had a runaway. He was gonna get killed, bro.
There's loss to it.
All right, if you get married and you have a wife, and for whatever reason, unnamed, you need to leave for 50,
in those times,
30 years.
If there's no husband, they have to go to someone else. Like the woman can't just say like, just want to be all right. That's like a widow. Like you know what I mean? Like it has to go to someone else. Like there's a loss to it.
Okay.
So did he just overrule the laws? He can't just do that.
That was his wife, though.
Bro.
Well, do we know how much time passed between...
A lot of time.
How much is it?
Years, bro.
How much is years? Like over 10 years?
Like maybe a little before. A little like maybe.
All right, bro.
Years.
All right, so sorry, but...
What do you mean sorry? Years of being together with a person?
Okay, well, honestly, maybe I'll blame her. Because if she...
I'm saying there's laws in place where the woman won't be alone.
That's fine. But if she could have mentioned, hey... I used to be married to David, the royalty David. And he had to run away because my dad was going to kill him. And so there's a chance that he can come back and come get me.
Sure.
And so now the man had to have had that.
Then maybe she should have been like
more clear. But we don't know.
It did say that she loved him. Like she was in love with him.
Oh, that, yeah.
So she could have been like, yo, I'm away from my man to come back.
Exactly.
But then who wants to wait 10 years or like per se?
That's fair. But then David comes back and he's like, I'm back, baby. I'm back. So come with me.
But then even when he gets her back, she is like judging him when he's like dancing like on the path. Like he's dancing with God and so she's like, you look distinguished from all those slave girls. And then David's like, God chose me over your dad. Right? And then and all that stuff. So
basically there's a lot of family issues going on there. And
I don't even know. How could you even solve that? I guess just she had to wait. But who is that patient? Who is that patient? But anyways, David is the king of Israel. He was a king of Israel.
Israel.
David was a man after God's own heart.
Yes, he was.
Okay.
Quoted by God. Yeah.
Quoted by God.
God said,
yeah,
this
so
man is...
he didn't call Daniel a man after God's own heart.
Wait, hold on. No. Hold on. Why did you just do that?
That title? I'm just saying that title wasn't given to Daniel in the Bible.
But why did you just, like, out of nowhere you had to bring Daniel into this? I'm just telling you. I didn't even mention Daniel yet.
There's a lot of David hate. There
is a lot of David hate.
And if we put your life in the Bible,
okay,
the way that David was, I bet should there be a lot of Daniel hate too.
Oh.
No.
Okay. No. You've got a point.
I know I have a point. You gotta tell me I have a point. I know I do.
No, you have a point.
I know I do.
Oh, okay.
I know
All right. Good thing that you know that you do.
It sure is a good thing.
You have a point.
I know I do have a point.
But David, named by God of saying David was a man after my own heart.
Sure. Yet
David was an interesting man of God, we can say.
Okay.
David was not like Daniel, that, Daniel in the Bible, it doesn't say anything about his sin. Like Daniel did not commit a Bathsheba. Daniel did not commit this crazy act of murder.
I didn't know there was levels to sin here.
Did it say that even Daniel told a lie?
Did it have to say it? He was a human.
He was a human, of course. And I'm sure he sinned, but it wasn't worth noting into the Bible.
That's God's business, bro.
That is God's business.
All right then.
But David, on the other hand, David was
the king of Israel, okay? And he was a man after God's own heart. What does it even mean? What does it even mean? It means he loved God and obeyed him, and he loved his word. He loved God and he obeyed God because he was and he was a man full of faith too. Like we think about, okay, the cliche story of David and Goliath, you know, like, what's your Goliath? No, we're not doing that. It's like, how can you even put that story into today's culture? Like, I don't even know. Like, how can you even do that?
No,
it's just so hard
crazy.
to find some sort of scenario of like how that we can relate to it. But the main general message of it is any sort of imposing, dangerous, life-threatening, in a way, thing in your life can be overcome by faith, right? And so David had the faith for that, you know?
At a young age.
Yeah, we said it was 14?
Like 14 or 15.
14 or 15. A 14, 15-year-old. You could say he was naive, right? He's like, oh, he's a naive little boy. Like,
nah, bro.
Maybe you got to be a naive. Maybe you got to be like him. Because I feel like, what is it about people that as we grow older, we become more bitter? And we have less kind of... I think because we had so much experience and controlling our own lives, we just feel like there's no reason for God because we've done it by ourselves this whole time, right?
Or at least we think so.
We think so, yeah. But David, like, we could say that he was a 14-year-old, prideful, naive boy. You know, think about any 14-year-old you know. You know, you might think that they're, you know, considering who they are, they could be a naive kid that they believe anything, whatever. But then it's like, maybe you have to be naive. You know, is it, or is naivety just faith? Like being like having faith in that God can do what he can do? Because who would really do that? You know, who would really step in front of again, I just wish there was a really good example to kind of put that into perspective of today's culture of David and Goliath. But like to have that faith to go in front of like grown men with a slingshot, like completely like, countercultural.
Yeah.
Super young boy against an old man, like grown man. And to defeat him, like, and it even said like, yo, David ran, like David was running towards him, and then Goliath also ran towards him. Like, bro, imagine he's like, yo, I'm gonna beat you up, and he just he's like running to go like beat him up, bro. Like that's crazy.
No, the scene is crazy. The scene is crazy,
and it's just like that's faith, bro. That's faith in God to believe that anything that come against you and any sort of threatening thing that comes against you, you can overcome it. If you believe in God and have faith in him and act upon it, right? If he had faith but didn't go and fight Goliath, what kind of faith is that? So there's a sense of putting yourself in a risk situation too, right?
Absolutely. I mean, everything you're talking about is kind of this incredible characteristic of a man. And so when we break down the life of David, at first when you hear, you know, David was a man after God's own heart, to you, instantly, your first reaction, if you know the life of David, is like,
how?
What are you talking about, bro? Because David committed some crazy stuff, bro. David made a lot of errors. Let's call it that.
Sure.
But then you look at the way David handled the errors and the kind of man that he was in general with God. Then you come to the assumption of, okay, yeah, this guy was a man after God's own heart. Would you say, knowing the life of David, would you say that you want to be like David?
Would I say when I want to be like David? I mean, no one wants to, you know, commit something of that nature in which he did. But in terms of being like him, because David cared. Like, it's not even like, you know, we talk about a man after God's own heart. What does it even look like? Like, for example, when King Saul, right, he was trying to kill David. When he was chasing David down, he went to go and relieve himself. I don't know what that means really in the Bible.
They say either sleep
or relieve himself in other ways.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And so, you know, he had to go do that in the cave, but then David was already in that cave. And so as he was doing that, like David had an opportunity to literally just kill Saul.
Yeah.
And like and end this annoying pattern of pursuit and like so annoying, right? But then, you know, he instead of that, he goes and just cuts off a piece of his robe. right?
And he feels bad.
Yeah,
about
and so
it.
and then he walks away, and then it says his conscience started to like torment him.
Yeah.
So man, he's like, oh, fuck. Like, oh.
The thing is, he felt bad about cutting his
Like
robe.
he felt, yeah, but that's the thing, right? The reason why is because he knew that, like, in his mind, right, God chose Saul, right? Because Saul was chosen in front of all of Israel. And so he was like, the fact that he even just cut off his robe and he started like, it's so, I don't know, I love that. Like his conscience started tormenting him. He's like, he's like, oh, guys, stop. Oh, I feel bad. I feel bad. Like, I know how that feels. Like, just being like, oh, I feel so bad right now. And it's like, why? But why though? It's because he knew that was who God chose. And God did choose Saul. And so the respect and reverence he had for God,
wow,
that he was like, yo, God chose this man. I don't even want to, like that's how much love he had for God, that like he knew God chose Saul. And so he wouldn't want to kill Saul because he's like, no, God chose it. And like the fact that his conscience, like when your conscience bothers you, because of that, that just shows how much love he had, because his conscience bothered him.
Very true.
You know? So like things like that, like in that sense, like I want to care. I want to love God in that aspect where like having that such a deep respect and reverence that like something like that just bothers my conscience. It's like, I don't want to do that, because even though this guy's trying to kill him, he's like, I don't even want to kill this guy because I know God chose him.
Yeah.
And I won't rush what God is going to do, because wasn't it that David was going to be anointed as king of Israel? Didn't David already know that? David already knew he was going to become king, but he didn't want to bring it into his own control and kill him and say, I'm going to be king now. Like, no, he wanted to wait for God to do it. Like in that aspect, like I want to be like David in that. And of course, it's like, no, who doesn't want to be a man after God's own heart, right? Because I think any man, like, you get to the point where you're like, dude, like I just want God, you know, like I just want him, and I want to follow him and seek him first, because with him there's an adventure. Like God gives you, like, there's an adventure when you follow Jesus. There's everything, right? And so, like, who doesn't want to be a man after God's own heart?
I think when I think about David, I think of an incredible man of God. And so when you start to kind of break down his life, I feel like he's such a complete character in the Bible, of somebody that is truly human, like somebody that fulfills a lot of the goals that we have as followers of Christ, as like especially men, that we want to achieve, mixed in with his human brokenness and his flesh and his sin. So I think David is such a complete character. Like he's such a complete person to look at and be like, really reflect on, be like, okay, David had a ton of brokenness. Yeah. David, you know, we can see from his actions later on with Bathsheba and with all his other stuff too, you can kind of read between the lines of a lot of things and be like, you know, it's possible that David was brought into a lot of this scenery at a young age, man. 15 to cut off the head of a freaking giant at 14 years old and carry that head to, like, this man. This is not a normal man. Like, we're not talking about the men of today. We're talking about this is a man, bro. And so he experienced that. He experienced war. He experienced Saul. He experienced having concubines, and he was exposed to a lot at a young age. You know, we also don't know how his father treated him, how his brothers treated him. Yeah. And so David had a lot of brokenness and stuff to heal from. But what made him a man after God's own heart is his awareness to the reality of God and God's kingship over David's life. And like you just described about David's respect and awareness and awakeness of who God is what made him the man that we kind of look at today.
Yeah, I would even say his humility. Where is it in the 100%. Bible does it say that David became proud? Like he won. Like, man, this guy won battle after battle. He won it. And it started saying, you know, people would chant like, oh, David killed his 10,000s and Saul his thousands. Like, there was cheering. There was respect for David. People loved him. People wanted to follow him. They wanted him to be king. He was the best, like, leader in the. Of course, there had to be some sort of like you know, like, who I'm pretty dope. Yeah,
I'm sure there's small moments.
But like the fact that there was a point where it's like, and David became proud. Like, he was just And that was the comparison of Saul and David, where it's like David was dependent on God. Like he was like in every battle, when something would happen, David would be like, yo, God, should I go fight them? Yes, go fight them. Will I win? Yes, you'll win. Bet. And then he's like, and so when he hears that, of course, imagine hearing that before a battle. Like you go in with a different mindset, bro. You're like, I'm winning this. And is that the mindset we need to have? You know, of just like, dude, like you're on the winning. And we talked about this before, but it's a new perspective, right? Like, oh, when you go with God, you know, you're on the winning side. And when it comes to the enemy, and like, it's not like we're fighting on the same level, like same playing field. Like, you know, when it comes to us fighting against all the spiritual attacks that we face, like we are actually like above it. Like we are able to cast out. And so we have to have kind of like that same attitude of David, where it's like, hey, like, God, am I going to win this battle? Yes, you will. I will hand them over to you.
Right. When
David, what kind of energy do you go into that fight with, man? You're just like, and imagine how much of a leader he was to like his people to be like, yo, guys, we're going to win this. We are. And for the people to see their leader so passionate and so like determined and so like, yo, we are going to win this. Follow me. And that's how it's always been, right? Because it's always like the people either are in confusion and fearful, or they're super confident and want to win. And I think there's that. He was a humble man. He was a man that like was dependent. He was dependent on God. He would ask God, hey, compared to Saul, where Saul would just like Saul was impatient. He wouldn't wait. He didn't wait for Samuel for those 7 days. Like he didn't wait for him. He sacrificed the animal himself. He didn't wait for Samuel to go do it. Or when there was confusion in the camp, and then he was like, yo, bring me the ephod. And then like the confusion grew louder. And he was like, never mind. So Samuel didn't even ask God, but you know, he still won it. But you see the contrast of it, of like David, where I go? Yes, you will. Okay, bet. Saul, bring me the ephod. Never mind. And I think it's like the dependence and humility that David had.
Yeah. Real quick, I know the episode is fire. I hope you're enjoying it, but I just want to let you know about our Patreon. If you're looking for a community of strong believers to sharpen you and help you grow in your faith, you want to check out the Patreon. The link is in the bio. We'll see you there.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, first of all, everything you said was like, I just want to sit here and soak it in. But there's, when you look at David, me personally, I say, I want to be like David in a lot of different ways. That dependency that you were just talking about. You know, if you start to write down characteristics of David, right? These characteristics are incredible. And I think every man should aim for a lot of these characteristics that David had. And so, you know, one of them was courage that I wrote down.
I was just thinking about that.
But what's interesting is you just brought up humbleness, pride, courage, and dependency. All of those four, right? David's courage did not come from
his own ability.
His own ability to do it. His confidence and courage came from God just told me that this is gonna happen, and I have full faith. It's as if you had just told me something. How do I explain this, bro? So many times we hear the voice of God, and yet we don't have that faith, and it makes me wonder why. Why it's like we just heard it from God, yet we still doubt it. David was full blown like, you said that, God, this is how it's gonna go. And he was able to lead his entire army. And like you said, which made him an incredible leader. In the word, it literally says they respected him. They chanted for him. They like yelled his name. They were like, bro, this is our king. Because David was such a loved and liked person that it makes me wonder, how was David with his people? It wasn't just that he was passionate, but he was probably an incredible leader. The way they described him was a man with good judgment.
Oh yeah, they even said a part where he brought everyone together and gave food to everyone and just like enjoyed with them. Like he was a leader.
But that comes from where? That comes from his humbleness,
his love for God,
which as
it all stemmed out of it. It all did,
bro. What you're saying is incredible, because when you have the kind of the umbrella effect at the right thing at the top. And we've talked about it all the time. The overflow of that was the fruits of the Spirit for him, which was just like the humbleness. The fact that the king that was praised and you know, all these chants and people loved him, yet he gave food to everybody and sat with them and enjoyed that. Would Saul have done that? Never, bro, never. And it was that humbleness that David had. Why? Because of his priority of putting God above all else.
Wow.
And the idea is, you know, not that David still had God at the top, and that didn't stop him from making the mistakes that he did make, but it did mark him as a man after God's own heart, and I think that blessed him in incredible ways.
Well, I spoke about it before. Like in the Old Testament, you see this clear pattern of like, if you do it with God, you got it. Like right. you're gonna win. You know what I mean? Like if you're with the Lord, right? If the Israelites were giving their lives to God and doing the stuff and not going to other gods and idols, then God would bless them, and God would. And then with David, like David would come, and that's the thing that we talk about, right? The Psalms, like they were written like in different scenarios. Like some of the Psalms were written when he was hiding in the cave. Some Psalms, you know, one of the Psalms, Psalm 51, was written after the death of his son with Bathsheba. And so it's like all these Psalms, and like you see his heart being poured out. You see his authentic, real heart being poured out in those Psalms. And it's just like, it's just all that authenticity that, and then if you look at the Psalms, the common theme with them is near the end of it, what he would say is, but I would trust in you, Lord, and have faith in you. So he would go off about how angry he is and how like, he's like, God, listen to me, hear my cry. I cry out to you, God, don't ignore me. Don't do this, but I will put my faith in you again. And so in the Psalms, you see that constant pattern with David, that he would go off. He would go off in any sense of the word. Like he would just like start being mad. He'd be mad like, yo, God, I hate people who hate you. God, I'm sad. I can't even get up. My bed is full of tears. This, that. David, and God's like, you know, David's like, God, like, where are you? You don't listen to me. But I will put my trust and my faith in you again. And you see that pattern of David where it's like, regardless of what's happening, he just put his faith in God. He trusted him in anything, even when like anything, man, anything, like he would just put his trust and his faith in God in any situation. And the pattern of like saying, this happened, God, this happened. This doesn't feel fair. This is not fair to me. I feel like I'm being punished for no reason. I've done everything in a good way. I've done nothing wrong. But you know what? I put my trust and faith in you. And I think having that attitude is just like, that is what perseverance is. That's what faith is. Faith and perseverance is you responding to that in any situation. Being like, this just happened, but I put my faith in you and I trust you, even though I feel like crap right now. And I think that attitude is what will mark the difference. I think that's a part that marks him as a man after God's own heart. That he wouldn't lose faith in him. Whatever happens. So he just didn't lose faith in God.
What does the story of David mark for your life?
Mark for my life?
Like what do you get out of hearing everything that you've heard and understood about David? And what does that make you want to apply for your life?
I think with David, what I get out of it and what I get out of the story is just like a man who I don't know, just having my conscience be with the Lord, like having my heart fully with the Lord, like to the point that it's like, I don't know, like it's always been the same thing with me, always, of like, at the end of the day, I just want to be close to God. And it's like a whole thing could happen in my life. And then at the end of it, I'm just like, I just want to be close to God, man. And that's kind of always the end point I get to. And I think with David, what that shows me is like, even more, like I just want, in that sense of in David's sense and how you see it in the Bible, I just want to be close to God. I just want to be close to him. And I want to do that. I want to, because when you're close, when God is number one on the priority list in your life, God will just bless you and love you and be patient with you and sharpen you and open your eyes and do these things. Like, life is always better when God is number one. Like, imagine David going from like herding sheep, and even God says to him, like, I brought you from herding sheep to a palace. I brought you from shepherding sheep to shepherding my people of Israel.
Wow.
Like, God said it to David, and David's like, who am I? Who am I to give all this to you? And of course, it was funny because he was in his palace, and then he saw like how the Ark of God was in a tent, and he was like, how can I be in this palace? And then God's like, I don't know if it's like God trying to be like, bro, like, God's like, did I ever need a palace?
Yeah, because David offers him to build
he wants to build him a house. Like, he wants to build him.
He's like, God, I'll build you a house.
I don't deserve this. How can I live in a palace and my God is in a tent? And God's just like, bro, I never needed a house. I always traveled through tents, and who can build a house for me? I don't know.
I think for me, the things that I grab from David is his ability to be led by God, and therefore translate into him leading his people in incredible ways. I mean, before the episode, we were talking about just leadership and leadership roles and what that means for us. And it's like, ultimately, me and Lewis always come to the same conclusion of, when you put God first, it all trickles into you becoming an excellent leader, an excellent friend, an excellent father. And so, see, but then here's my point. Going back to, like, let's just say on the other end, David was putting God first, but he wasn't a great father. And so is that just his human side, or is it like, what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, after the whole thing with Bathsheba, God said, I will bring your household against you because of what you did.
Oh, shoot.
And so like kings, like Absalom and Amnon, like all that stuff happened, and like Absalom getting people to rise up against David, and then and of course David didn't really know how to handle it besides just exile them, because he probably felt, I think David was like, this is what I got coming to me, so I have to accept it. I think that's his mindset, because God told him, I'm going to bring your household against you.
Wow. And
so when you see Absalom like coming against him, he literally tells his people, like, he tells his army, like, yo, don't kill Absalom, like, be gentle with him.
What does that tell you about God?
What do you mean?
I mean, you had David. I'm just trying to like pick your brain out, how you feel about this story, because you see David. We just talked about his incredible life of being courageous and doing all the things of God and like putting God first.
Yeah.
And then David makes this error. I mean, it is a really big error. And then God kind of puts that on him of like, yo, your family's going to be against you. Is that just the outcome of like the consequences of David's actions, or is that God being like, this is your punishment?
There is heavy consequences when you are in a big position. You know what I mean? I think like people can make mistakes. People sin. People sin, and sin isn't on any type of level. But it does say in the Bible that people in leadership will be judged more harshly.
Yeah.
And I think there is that aspect to it, because he was a king, and he was a king, you know what I mean? And so for a king to do all that, for you to be in that high position and then do what you did, I think God's just like that. Like, yeah, I think there's a consequence to it. And that's why I just think about it in terms of like, when there's stories of pastors doing bad things, and then, can a pastor that has done wrong things be a pastor still, And then it's like, how heavy is the consequence for when you make a great mistake in a high position? Of course, there's not like there's a level to sin, but you are judged more harshly because you are in a position of leadership. So I think it's just like that's just the consequence. I think that's just a consequence of like doing what he did.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you answered that really well. It makes sense to me. And I don't know if it was just God punishing him or if it was just God pretty much just letting him know out of grace, listen, man, this is what's going to happen because of what you did.
Yeah, and I think that's God being just.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel like if it's like, can King David just go and kill one of his guys
That's
because
true.
he wanted his wife? Is that okay? It's like God's like, that's not okay. And I think David, you know, and that's the thing too. Like even after there's a part of the story where King David, he's like with his people going somewhere, and then there's this guy who's like just cursing him. He's like, David, you're a murderer. You're this, you're that. And the guy's like, who are you to speak to the king like this? I'm going to kill you. David, let me kill him. And David's like, stop. What if God wanted him to curse me? Let his curses fall on me if that's what God wants. And if God doesn't want that, then let them fall on himself.
Oh, shoot.
And so I feel like that attitude of like, I think David was just so like, I got what's coming to me. Like I did what I did and I did wrong. And so any evil that comes forth to me, I'm going to let it happen because I know I did wrong. You know?
Bro, that's such a beautiful, repentant heart that David had, which is just in addition to...
So think about it, right? Like Amnon did what he did, right? He did the terrible thing with the half-sister, right? And so he exiles him. I'm guessing he didn't... And that was a part of it too, because like, okay, right? So Amnon like forced himself on Tamar, right? And like had sex with her. And David hears about it and he gets so frustrated. But didn't David do the same thing? So it's like his oldest son, Amnon, who is David to go and like demand his son be killed for something that he probably felt. He also
did, yeah.
Yeah, he basically also did. You know, the wordage isn't the same, but didn't he basically do the same thing? Which I thought was interesting. How like that mirror of like Amnon, his oldest son, did something that was similar to him, and so he just exiled him. And then Absalom, his other son, he just kind of wants to come back, but then he just wants to overthrow his father. So then when they fight, David's like, be gentle with Absalom. And so so Absalom is funny. It said Absalom was very handsome and he had really long hair. So when he was on his horse and he was when he was on his horse and he was riding through the forest, his hair got stuck on a branch. And so he was like dangling in the air because his hair was in a branch. And so they get to him and he's like, isn't this Absalom? He's like, yeah. And they're like, wait, guys, the king said, don't kill him, whatever. He's like, wait, what? Move out the way. And they stabbed him like 10 times. He killed Absalom. And so David hears about it and he starts crying. He's like, oh, my son. And then the guy, and it said that like what turned into a day of victory and enjoyment turned into like all the army feeling shame and walking away as if they lost. And so the commander was like, he goes up to his palace and is like, yo, David, why are you doing this? Like, we just won this battle and you're out here crying and making us feel like we did something wrong. You better go out there and tell the people like encouragement because you're making us feel like we did something wrong here. And it was like that, I think. You know, I think his heart was like, even though his son is going against him, don't kill my son. You know, like be gentle with him. Or let the curse fall on me if that's what God wants. Like that kind of heart that he had of like, I got what's coming to me for what I've done and God told me it already. You know?
To me, it just sounds like a courageous and strong man of God in a leadership position with a really soft heart and brokenness. I think that's what made David so incredible, was that even after everything, because towards the end of David's life was harsh at the end. Like, you know, it's all, I guess you could say, fun and games in the beginning. Like, all right, David's winning wars. David's like put in this position of power. David went from herding kids. I mean, that sounded crazy. herding sheep to this position of power in the palace and leading Israel and everything. And then we see this downfall in David's life. Yet the whole time he's still writing Psalms. He's still praising God and being faithful to him and being authentic and expressing how he's feeling. And so I think what we can take away from everything is, how do we get to a point where we depend on God in incredible ways, despite our brokenness and despite our actions, or despite the things that happen to us in life, because life is going to happen, yet we always run back to God.
Yeah.
And so several things that I take away from David's life that I want to incorporate in my own is, let me rely on God for every big decision that I'm going to make.
David loved God's word also. It said, David,
Yeah.
I love your word. I meditate on it day and night. He loved God's
He meditates it on day and night.
word. He loved God's word.
So this is like the ideal lifestyle of a follower of Jesus, is I'm going to wake up to God, read his word, pray. Throughout my day, I'm going to say, God, do you want me to go there? Do you want me to fight these people? Well, speaking in David's terms, we're not actually fighting people, you know? But do you want me to take this action? Do you want me to initiate this? Do you want me to start this? I have like this feeling that I want to start this business, or I want to go into this school, or I want to date this person. Like, God, should I do this? And then you seek God's guidance and you depend on him to support you and lead you to where he needs you to be. And then you pray some more, and then you praise him some more, and then you read the word some more, and then this is all going on throughout the day. But in everything, you always found God. And when David messed up, his repentant heart couldn't even let him celebrate like the war that you were just talking about. Like, bro, why are you crying? You're making us feel like we did something wrong. Like, but David's repentant heart was like, nah, like, that was my son.
My
like,
son, yeah.
He had that soft spot, you know, where it was like, that God kind of softened his heart and made it sensitive to his conscience, of kind of like, yo, this is wrong. I should not do this. Because a man that was like not dependent on God would have killed Saul.
Yeah.
Bro, he was getting chased for years.
And it was a pattern. It was annoying to read. Like, Saul's like, is that you, my son David? I'm sorry. Later, he goes and chases him again. Bro, I'd be so pissed.
Bro, fuming dude, he wants to kill you for no reason. You've never done anything to him. Bro, you sat there and played the harp to help him out.
And then David goes to Jonathan, and David's like, I swear to you by my own soul that I'm one step away from death. And Jonathan's like, no, my dad. I know my dad. He's like, Jonathan, of course he wouldn't tell you, bro. He knows that we're best friends. He's not going to tell you that. I tell you, I'm about to die, bro. And like, Jonathan's like, all right, I bet I'll figure it out. So,
and yet David has this moment where everything turns off and he just is sensitive to God. And he's like, this is not right. I'm not going to do that. And even in moments where, like, even his own punishment, like, he felt like he did something so bad, yet he didn't even try to punish himself. He's like, if God wants to put a curse on me, so be it. If not, let them like fall on themselves. He's like, bro, even in his own punishment, he's like, I'll let God rock. Like, I'm just going to let God do his thing. That's incredible. That's incredible. There are so many things to take from the story of David. Daniel's still better, but there's just incredible things to take from the story of David. You know. You all right? Maybe we should do an episode on Daniel. And then we'll really talk about like a man of God, you know, like the law tells him, yo, you cannot pray or you will die. And he's like, bet I will die then because I will pray to my God.
Boring.
David, on the other hand, he's like, yo, bring me that girl right now. Bring her into my palace.
Yeah, are you
and then let me kill her husband. Bro, come on. Come on, bro. Be serious.
But if we put your life.
If we put your life in the Bible.
Chill.
Anyways, but we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This was definitely something new. I mean, you were in the middle of reading 1st and 2nd Samuel. And so, we thought this was a great opportunity to talk about, narrow down on, somebody in the Bible that is talked about a lot. Very well known.
But also possibly perspectives that we don't know about because we kind of just generalize.
Exactly.
And just vaguely know about his story without actually knowing the specifics and how he feels and what's going on and like his heart and what it actually means to be a man after God's own heart. So
yeah. So our encouragement and for us and for you guys is, let's be men and women after God's own heart.
Yeah.
Yes, we have brokenness. Yes, we're human. We're going to make mistakes. But my goal here is to be a man after God's own heart. That's what I want my title to be. A man after God's own heart. To me, that is something incredibly powerful. And it'll all trickle down into the other aspects of your life. But nonetheless, I appreciate you guys. We love you. We thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you guys for the next episode. Peace out, everybody.